Go ahead and liven us up. Okay, thank you very much, Andrew. Welcome everybody to our council meeting of November 24th, 2020. This meeting is being conducted by means of electronic participation as permitted by section 238, 3.1 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended and the Town of Monora Procedure Bylaw 2020-42. Council chambers is not open to the public. This meeting can be viewed live starting at 9 a.m. on the Monora Civic website portal. We have Deputy Mayor Creelman will be joining us as soon as he's available, but the rest of council members are in attendance. Public notification of proceedings is being video recorded and broadcast. And remind members of council that disclosure of pecuniary interest can be made now or at any time throughout the meeting. And I'll ask our CAO, Mark Early, to do the Indigenous land acknowledgement.
Sorry, I was waiting for my clock to finish ringing. We'd like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the town of Monora resides within the traditional territory and ancestral lands of the Toutant, the Ottawaddaron, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples. We also acknowledge that the town of Monora resides within the treaty lands named under Treaty 18, the Nottawasaga Purchase of 1818. These traditional territories upon which we live and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous history and traditions. It is with this statement that we declare to honor and respect the past and present connection of Indigenous peoples with this land, its waterways, and resources.
Thank you. At this time, we have adoption of the agenda in previous minutes. So the approval of the agenda, that council approves the agenda of session VC17-2020 as circulated, moved by Nix and seconded by Martin. Are there any additions or corrections? Seeing none, then I'll ask if anyone's opposed to the motion. And seeing none, that's carried. And the approval of the previous minutes, that council approves the minutes of session VC15-2020 as circulated. And could I have a mover? Moved by Megtalo and seconded by Martin. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. So there are no proclamations today. We are on to public question period. Mr. Simpson, was there any questions received through the portal for public question period?
No, Your Worship, we didn't receive any questions online for this meeting.
Okay, and I don't see anybody signed in, so we will carry on. We do have a delegation scheduled for 9:15, so there's a few minutes here. Unfinished business, the list of unfinished and deferred council business. Is there anything that you would like to have added or deleted? Not hearing anything. Okay, and so,
Your Worship,
yes.
I did get an email from Ms. Van Niekerk. She said they're in the waiting room, Andrew, if you wanted to let them in.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So while we're waiting for their logging in, we should wait and do the budget all together. I don't see that we start into it and then have to break off. How about council is in agreement that we go into new business and discuss the recommission of the Monora Park outdoor washroom, item number 1. So Kim has provided us with an update on to potential costs. And Kim, did you want to add anything further to your report?
No, I think it's self-explanatory. I did the background research into it and got in touch with the chief building inspector with the county of Deferred and spoke to him about the project. And he thought it was a great project, but he did say because the building is going to be accessed by the public, we will need to have a building permit, engineered drawings. We also have to hire a certified septic excuse me, council, a certified septic individual to give us a report about the septic tank. Now we have gone ahead and we do have we've done our initial research into the septic, and we do have water out there, and we know that the septic is working. So it's just a matter of we have to have a piece of paper from a septic person saying that it will hold up and all of that good stuff. And I have to double check with the CBC just to make sure that there haven't been any changes as far as where the septic is located to the pond, that they're still okay with us recommissioning that.
Okay. Any questions from council members regarding the report? Yeah, Councillor Niekerk.
Thanks, Kim, for moving so quickly on this. Could you just fill us in a little bit more details about what needs to be done? I'm presuming from what you just said that there's a water supply that's intact to it, and the drains are intact to the septic system.
Right.
The reason I'm asking is because as far as I can see, there's a need for a toilet and a sink and some plumbing, but the construction bill is $14,000. So I'm trying to figure out other things.
So that, sure. So that includes, oh, here's my book. That includes having to construct the walls. Like right now we've pulled all of the drywall off, the ceiling off, because everything, including the studs, were in really rough shape. So that's rebuilding the walls, putting a new ceiling in, putting in 2 fan vents. It's putting the electrical in, which includes accessibility. So we have to have a push bar. We have to have the electrical door. That includes putting a steel door in, cutting out the steel door. That's $2,000 alone for the steel door. That includes the plumbing. We have to have a certified plumber. Again, it's not, the plumbing cannot be done by in-house because it is a public access. So even though in-house is capable of doing it, they're not allowed to do it. So the plumbing alone was about $4,000 to have the plumber come in. So by the time you added it all up, that's what we came to.
Okay, Fred?
Sorry, Ralph. Say, Ralph.
I'd like to have another question if I can, Rhonda.
Okay.
Sure.
What is your present protocol Mono and as Mono Center and College Park in terms of cleaning, which is related to COVID, and what are your plans for this the Monora Park installation?
What we do is we have a sign posted on the on both of those washrooms saying that they are cleaned on once-a-week basis, and that's what we have posted. And that's what we, I've checked with the health unit and they're good with that. As long as you post it and let people know.
Okay. Fred?
No, I was just going to confirm what Kim said. I had a look at the building. It's sort of been gutted, and there's a lot of construction needed, including a new door and everything that Kim said. I think it's a great idea, but I guess Kim has, in her memo to us, posed us a question. You know, at $25,000, what do we do with a great idea? And we're going to discuss the budget later. I'll just say right now that even though I think it's a great idea, I'm reluctant to try to add $25,000 to a budget that we just cut $1.1 million out of. But maybe that's premature, Your Worship. Maybe we should leave that until we get to the budget.
Well, if that is the consensus of council members, that we pick this item up under the budget discussion, and if everybody's in agreement, then what we can do is hold over. Thanks, Kim, for starting us off on that. And,
You got it.
Okay, so now we do have our delegation in attendance. Jillian and Mike, welcome to our meeting.
Thank you for inviting us.
We appreciate you taking the time to be here. So at this time, we don't have anything specific in writing, or we just have a bunch of questions and also wanted to know what your thoughts are. So if I'd like to start us off, Jillian, with try to help us with this parking dilemma that we are experiencing.
Okay. You know, just based on the letter that we received, you know, we understood. We're coming to this meeting to hear also the council and the towns, you know, what your thoughts on how we can address this. And, you know, we really have come with listening ears to see how we can work together, what your thoughts are on that, and start from there, really. I don't have anything really, like I can answer questions about what Ontario Parks has done. But other than that, yes, I was hoping to connect with the town in regards to this.
Okay. Well, I guess in terms of our initial discussion is we are getting a lot of residents' complaints. First and foremost, parking on both sides of the third line, going from one direction to the other, which makes it impossible for safe vehicle traffic to go either north or south. A lot of problems with agricultural equipment. From there, it's garbage. Then there is individual residents have the experience of having people putting garbage on their lawn, doing quite incredible things in their front lawn, and also leaving human waste. And so we realized that if we go ahead as municipality and put up no parking signs on both sides of the road, all it's going to do is push the problem farther down the road, either closer to the 20th side road or closer to the 25th. So we're trying to find how we can monitor this, because it's going to take a lot of our OPP constable time in order to issue tickets if we put up a no parking zone. And so one question has been asked as to, is there an opportunity for the park itself to expand the parking lot to try to accommodate more of the traffic? We know the experience on Hockley Road working with Dufferin County. There was a new lot put in there, and also the no parking signs, and it seems to be working quite well in general. So any other councillors want to add? Councillor Nix?
Yeah, Jillian, the thought that occurs to me, and Laura has already asked the question as to whether or not it's possible for Ontario Parks to expand their parking lot. But you must be taking a significant revenue hit. I mean, every car that parks on the road is not paying the parking fee. So it must have crossed your mind that if you could get a bigger parking lot, you'd be bringing more money in for that park, wouldn't you?
So to answer your question, so yes, like the short answer is, of course, we've thought of that. And yeah, we have no, mechanism to charge people to use the park when they're parking on the road. It is Ontario Parks, practice is that if people can park outside the park and walk in, then they use it for free. There's only one park that charges for walk-ins, and that's Springwater. And that's managed by Beausoleil First Nations right now. But Springwater always did have walk-ins. Just to say that that's a very uncommon practice for Ontario Parks. Mainly, we don't have the capacity to actually try and, monitor or enforce that.
Well, could you physically expand your existing parking lot?
Jillian, your connection is not working.
Can you repeat your question? Okay, hang on here. See if I can. Just hopefully, I don't know why. Is it better now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So we have considered, looking into, so right now we cannot expand the parking lot where it currently sits. The options would be and the actual space to construct anything, we're limited there. And it doesn't, for us to develop that more, it doesn't make sense for us ecologically or financially to do that. So we are looking into, we are exploring the option to have an additional parking lot around the same size as the third line parking lot, but on second line.
So if that's the case, will you then, I know you've posted on your website when the parking lot is full on the third line, and it's done nothing to alleviate the problem. People are still coming anyway. If your intention would be to put in an expanded area on the second line, I guess we're just getting back to the whole issue of enforcement, because we are, as a municipality, holding the can, so to speak, in terms of being the enforcement and potential ticketing, and it's taking our resources, and quite frankly, we're not creating the problem. So we need to know whether or not there could be the opportunity of bylaw enforcement from the park staff, as opposed to us having to hire somebody to monitor the areas in question.
That is, so for enforcement, we did have 3 more wardens than we would normally have in the fall, to just like help with, you know, many different levels of enforcement. We are also, like, this park and myself, we manage also Forks to the Credit and Mona Cliffs, Forks to the Credit, Hockley, Boyne. I think most of you know that. And so we are working with the town of Caledon with a similar issue. And so for us, we are reviewing our operations plan and to be better to work. And this is where I was wanting to reach out to the town, is work with the community to, you know, alleviate this, because we also understand that that kind of parking is a traffic hazard and a hazard for people that are trying to go back and forth, like to access the park. So we will consider, you know, if that is agreeable with the town, to be designated or authorized as bylaw officers under a bylaw for the roads that I'm assuming would be around the park. We are working with the town of Caledon to move in that direction. It hasn't happened yet, just, you know, we're going through the process of coming to an agreement. And, you know, that is something that we are considering as we review our operations plan, and that, you know, the plan is almost complete for me to send up to my managers, and we'll discuss it as a group. And then we wanted to come back to you as the town, or a working group maybe that we set up with town staff members. That's what we've done with Caledon is, you know, we work with the CAO and the bylaw enforcement, and then their, you know, local police and fire, and then their roads supervisor. And so that it's not at a council meeting, because it's a working group. And that's the way that we're working with the town of Caledon that way. And I didn't know if that would work for the town of Mono, if that's something that we could work towards, and that we would come back as parks and say, this is what, you know, we could have the capacity to offer to help, you know, mitigate what's happening. Because I know we don't know how to stop people leaving their house to come here. And I will tell you, our experience at Caledon is, and at Forks to the Credit, is there is one small entrance that really, you can really only access it through the laneway, unlike the way that Mono is, where people can just walk over the berm and through the grass and all that kind of thing. And even though we were there, we had people at the gate to manage the parking lot, because people were overrunning the parking lot, where they weren't leaving any room for people to move. And so we had people there to manage the parking lot. But unless we are enforcing I'm sorry, folks, the road that is the municipal road in front of the entrance, if their bylaw, because we weren't designated as bylaw officers weren't managing their no parking, and they actually had to put a tow-away zone because people were parking and paying the parking ticket anyways and coming in. And they didn't care how much, like they were paying a $45 parking ticket. They were more than willing to do that and come into the park anyways. But unless we were enforcing it, it just backed up the cars. Like, meaning unless we were enforcing the tow-away zone, it just backed up the cars that they wouldn't leave. Like, we weren't letting them in the park. We weren't even letting them walk in the park, and they were just lined up on the road. And so it took police or bylaw to come and move them. Like, this is the mentality of the people that are visiting. So from our perspective, having to that's in the idea of what we're moving, is we are willing to, talk about and discuss assisting with bylaw enforcement. But again, I can't give you an absolute yes at this moment.
No, we do appreciate that. I think that at this point, we are looking for answers that we can work together to resolve these issues. And I think that this council is quite willing to work as a management team with staff representation, etc., working with you. And then if the right direction for us to do is to go into no parking towing zones, then we would consider that at the table. Any other council members have any questions of Jillian? Fred?
You said this operational plan that you've been working on is just about ready to go up to your superiors. Does it include a proposal for a parking lot on the second line?
Candidly, yes, it does.
Oh, if it's approved, how long between having an operational plan approved by your superiors and actually seeing a parking lot built?
With construction timelines, because of the ecological values that we have in the area that's there, which are minimal, and that's why that place is chosen, the place that I'm proposing, would be fall next year, which I know doesn't help us through the summer, but it would be in place for fall colors.
Okay.
That's good to hear.
Okay. Good morning, John.
Good morning, and my apologies for being late. I have two questions. One has to do with park maintenance insofar as litter is concerned. What resources do you deploy to pick up an increasing amount of litter that is finding its way into the parks that you manage in Mono?
So we had increased staff through the fall. I also was working through the fall, like in that capacity. In this operations plan, it would be for more, like for actual, more dedicated maintenance staff, and really, the receptacles are there if we have the staff to pick it up. And it really was just being so busy in the park, managing all the other concerns, that getting back to it was a real struggle. So the proposal has, more staff in the enforcement capacity and maintenance. And hopefully, that's how we manage it in our other larger parks, is just the amount of staff to to collect it, because you can put receptacles out there and it still overflows. I don't know if you experience that as a municipality, but in my 25 years in parks, it's sort of like you make more parking and it still overflows, and if you put more garbage out, it still overflows. So you have to have the staff to pick it up.
My second question is somewhat related, and it's a suggestion of one of our residents, and that is they have come to resent the notion of having to pay for parking when in fact they are acting as the people picking up litter. Is there any thought given to maybe issuing a windshield sticker or a piece of cardboard or something that would exempt residents of Mono from having to pay for parking in return for their efforts to clean up the park?
So that isn't a practice that Ontario Parks has. I'm not against discussing that with other folks. So there are residents that do their part. I'm not going to say that they don't, but there are also residents that we deal with that do not and actually don't obey the rules in the park. So there's some of that, but I can discuss that. I really don't see that. I don't have high hopes for that being accepted, just because, like, unless they were proven that they were volunteers and we had their names. I know that that has been a practice in the past with other provincial parks that I've worked at. Because Ontario Parks looks at it from a provincial standpoint and what that precedent sets. So that's, I can bring it forward, but in the past that has been the direction or view of that kind of pass of letting people in the park.
Okay,
Well, I think it's something that should be considered, because I know of many people who regularly walk in the park with a garbage bag and do the work of park wardens.
okay. Ralph? Your mic?
Julian, it's great to have you actually come here so we can talk to you. Unfortunately, I can't see your face, but I can hear your voice. I think that the idea of a second line parking lot is very valuable. The projected due date for that of 10 months from now is not helpful to the immediate situation, but it would be helpful likely then, although we may be coming out of the COVID situation by then. I think it's very urgent that we do something now. If you visualize a country road and you have parking on one side and parking on the other side, and there's barely room for a car to go down the center, let alone cars to go in two directions. So it's a really bad situation. I'm quite supportive of the idea of a committee, which is a joint committee of the town and parks staff, and to come up with some solutions now. The pressure will be off somewhat in the winter, but I just live around the corner from the Niagara Escarpment Commission Trail, and people are hiking more in the winter now than they were 10 years ago. It's much more an acceptable thing. So I think we're going to continue to have this problem, and the safety issue is going to be aggravated by winter snow, not being able to get off the side of the road as far because of the snow plow drifts, etc., etc. So we have a problem today in November 2020, which we need to solve right now. So some of the suggestions that you've presented to us, including more staff, etc., are, I think, good. But I would recommend that we have a committee very quickly, that we come up with an interim plan, and we hear from you again at a fairly short notice. Thank you.
Okay. Sharon?
Hello, Jillian. Thank you for coming. These are exceptional times. I agree with Councillor Manchelo, and it's absolutely imperative that we find a solution to this as quickly as possible. If you can take that to people who are the next level from you and let them know that we have these concerns. I mean, there's always that thought that there's something will happen on these roads because of the traffic parked on both sides. It's very dangerous, and I also see people walking on the roads as well. It's not a good situation, and it needs to be dealt with. If it means you have to have more wardens, then the provincial government has got to come up with them, as far as I can see. And it's time sensitive. We really need this done now. I totally agree. There are going to be more people on those trails in the winter than we've ever had before. It's happened everywhere else. You can't buy skis. You can't buy snowmobiles. You can't buy anything in the winter, just as we went through with bikes and canoes and everything. And so I'm thinking that this is far more urgent than let's just have a meeting. So I would like to see that happen very quickly. Thank you.
Okay. So at this point, Mr. Early, do you have any questions of Jillian or suggestions, or Mike Dunmore?
Just waiting to see whether Mike was going to jump in. Jillian, you talked about a draft operational plan. In terms of timing for that, in terms of a working group, I guess, from the town, it's probably not going to be effective until you've got that operational plan moving forward. Otherwise, all we're going to hear is, yes, it's in the operational plan. Just wondering what your thoughts were in terms of timing, and whether we should be looking at a working group now, or whether we should be looking at a working group once you've got that operational plan, I guess, moving forward at your end.
Am I okay now?
Yep.
Okay, now that you see my picture, I'm gonna turn off my camera because I think it interferes, which is why I didn't turn it on the first time.
Okay.
You would think that being close to Allison would have better connection, but in terms of the working group, Mark, I would really like to start now. There are always things that Ontario Parks can do without having an operational plan approved. Yes, there will be some things that are there, but our plan is to have that, we'll know what is approved and what is not approved. Probably, well, if everything goes to plan, as you can well imagine, things don't always go to plan, so I can't promise it, but it is it's a priority to us as well, and not just to my park, to Ontario Parks. The Minister of Environment also is watching our parks, and so is the MPP's office, because both those parks fall within the same MPP's office area. So I don't know if that gives you any sort of confidence, but I would like to have the working group now so that we are making those plans and discuss where the middle is, or what the collaboration looks like, because to wait longer, I think, just delays having an actual have it actually happening on the ground. And so I don't know if that gives you an idea of where I'm coming from and timelines, but approval, sorry, I didn't give you the timeline. Like mid-January, as long as the right people see it at the right time and what they think about it. But there is always things we can do without the operational plan. That's not how, Ontario Parks isn't 100% bound by the operational plan. And then the discussions in our group, because we were doing things with the town of Caledon, in cooperation with the town of Caledon, before we had any operational plan in place. So we can do those things too, which is why I think it would be better if we could start the conversation sooner than later.
Okay. Councillor Nix?
Jillian, as you talk, a thought occurs to me. This is the dangerous time. People should duck when I have a thought. But on the east side of your park, as you know, the Bruce Trail has just acquired approximately 70 acres. And I know they're going to write a plan for that property and the trail. It will probably take a year for them to do that. But I've been up there a couple of times with them. And of course, one of the things we look at is rerouting the main trail of the Bruce Trail. I'm too low on the totem pole to know anything about this. But of course, right across from the property the Bruce Trail is bought, on the east side of the first line, is your property. And we've had a similar problem of parking problems over there. The Bruce Trail actually hired a security firm over this past summer to manage it. And we now as a council have passed, extended our no parking bylaw. So by sometime next spring, we will have no parking on both sides of the first line, from the Cannings Falls, Scott Falls area south to the 10th side road, and on the north side for about 1 kilometer going north. But in any case, here's the thought I had. If you're sitting down with some people and you've got this operational plan and you're looking at a parking lot on the second line, would it make sense to include a Bruce Trail staff person on this committee so that you're dealing with the east side of the park also?
Fred, Councillor Nix, are you referring to the Hockley Valley Nature Reserve piece?
Oh, you know what? Yes, I'm sorry, I slipped south. Yeah, that's not your park. That's the Hockley Valley Nature Reserve. I apologize. I just, in my mind, I was sorry. Take my thought back.
Councillor Nix, you don't have to take your thought back. And just for everyone on the call, it is also under my management. Parks managed as a different, like in a different way, but it is under our management. And actually, I would like to include Hockley Nature Reserve parking in the conversation, because yes, as Mayor Ryan had spoke of, when we implement no parking in one place, it's going to push it to other places. And I'm afraid that Hockley Valley will be victim to that if we don't address it at the same time.
Well, and that's a good point, because I know Mayor Ryan said that the Hockley Nature Reserve, and you've got a parking lot down there, and the county has put in no parking zones, and it works well. But I can testify, since I live on the Hockley Road, that every weekend this summer, Cars, the parking lot has filled up, and cars, they're not disobeying the no parking zone, but they're spreading down both sides of Hockley Road to the east for quite some distance past the Black Birch restaurant. There can be as many as 50, 60 cars on the road on a good weekend.
Yeah, so the parking lot was even full on Saturday, so.
Yeah. Mike Dunmore, did you have any comments?
Thank you, Your Worship. Hi, Jillian, Director of Public Works for the town of Mono. Just a few comments and questions. Knowing the area a bit at the end of Second Line, with the amount of tree removals and the topography there, I would think that your any sizable parking lot to deal with the amount of vehicles would be limited. Has the province looked at 25 Side Road and Third Line? I understand it's meadow land there, but there would be no tree removal. The town has a landfill across the road from this portion, and we do know that there's excellent bee gravel in that landfill. And I think your base would be probably better suited for there. Has the province looked at Third Line and 25?
We haven't considered that area, Mark. Oh, sorry. Is it Mark? Mike?
No, Mike.
Mike, sorry. Sorry about that. I can't see your name. And we haven't considered that area. There is some of that is we were trying to address where the issue is now. The area that we were talking about at the Second Line is right across from the entrance to the school, like the outdoor education center, and so it would be about an acre, which would hold like 100, 130 cars, which is what we were looking at. Because the other thing we have to think about is, and this is why I wanted to come to the town, is one of the many things that I'd like to discuss with the town is we also have to think about what, like, the park is there to protect that area, and exactly how many people do we want in there, and just what that does to the park property. But no, we haven't discussed putting a lot at 25th and Third Line.
Okay, great. With respect to the litter, well, I do know it was happening. I just wanted to throw a little bit of a thanks out to your staff. After we received the complaint on Monday morning, our roads crews couldn't find a lot of litter along the roadway, and that was around 7 o'clock in the morning. And I think your staff at the house, your bin was overflowing, and it looks like they had already got to the litter pickup. So the Monday after these large events seems to be working. So that would be great if you could continue to have your maintenance staff on that. So with respect to, have you considered the extra garbage cans? That's just a point, and I know you've probably thought about that. But in the operational plan, have you considered bring it in, take it out campaign? We're finding more and more that people are not taking out the trash that they take in, and in Algonquin, I know it works fairly well. And I wondered if the province would consider that. Probably not a comment. Yep.
Yeah, we can, and I think we think of that anyways, and it would just be organizing a promotion, which we can do. So I'll take note of that to move on.
But generally, Monday mornings have been pretty clean by the end of the day Monday, so that's great. Clarification on the bylaw enforcement with respect to your meetings with Caledon. Is Caledon's intention that the provincial staff, wardens, will be able to enforce roadway bylaw enforcement?
Just like we would be designated under the under certain sections. So, you know, we wouldn't be going obviously into the town to do it. It would just be outside the park boundary. We're still in the process of doing that, but we have that in place at our park at Earl Row, that we are designated to enforce the bylaw on the roads around the park.
And a question on that, do your wardens work on Saturdays and Sundays?
They will. So in the past, there hasn't been regular enforcement during the winter time. Yes, they do all the way from April until the end of fall colors. So generally it's the first week in November that they're off. I have put, you know, I have it proposed to have them on longer, because if not, it's just Mike and myself that are responsible for the park. And in the past, in the winter, it wasn't as much as a concern, but I do agree with the other councillors' comments that winter activities are on the rise. But yes, in the summer, they are on every weekend.
That's great. Thanks. With the fall, I know with COVID this year, we've definitely seen bigger usage. If that parking lot fills up in the winter, I would be surprised, but things are a lot different this year, that's for sure. I appreciate your answers, and if you want to do a working group, I'd be more than happy.
Excellent.
Okay, so I guess what I'm asking from council, authorization for staff to work with the park staff to try and come up with some resolutions for these issues. And if everybody's in agreement with that, we'll give that direction to Mark, and he can make a decision as to who needs to be present to help with pushing this forward. Because when we were taken out of lockdown this year, that was Easter weekend, and that was really unbelievable everywhere. People were just all over. So we need to try and push this item sooner than later to get some form of resolution or action happening prior to any potential parking lot expansion, etc. So if there is nothing further, thank you very much, Jillian and Mike, for attending. Oh, I see Ralph, yes?
Connor, particularly involved, since he's been so involved with this, I think it'd be an addition to this working group if we had a member of council, specifically John, sitting on the committee, so I'm recommending that.
How's the rest of the council members feel? Is that acceptable? Okay, John, are you willing to work with staff on this? I guess he's not connected right at the moment, so we'll give him the information that he's been voluntold.
It's been voluntold.
Yeah, okay then. So again, thank you very much, Jillian and Mike, for attending, and we look forward to getting some resolutions on these issues. Okay.
Mayor Ryan, may I just ask one question?
Yeah.
In regards to that, am I waiting to hear from the chat, like from Mark, I'm assuming, that this is going to be a group and then we meet, or do you want me to come back with information about what I was hoping?
I would think that Mark would be ready to to do whatever initially, but I don't want to speak for him. Mark, what's your direction?
I was going to either email or give Jillian a call right after the council meeting to figure out how she wants to proceed and what will work for both of us.
Okay, that works great.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks very much. Looking forward to talking with you again.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so now we're on to the 2021 draft budget. And so Les has provided us with an overview. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, Les?
Oh, good morning, Council, Mayor Ryan. Yes, I just wanted to make Council aware that we did put in the required statutory public notices on our website, local papers, and social media. I did receive one email, which is on the agenda, from Mr. Townsend. His one comment was regarding the inflation rate. I did reply to him prior to council. I gave him the memo that went to council, how our 1% is derived, the process we go through, and he appreciated the quick reply, but he did want the comments still to come to council. As far as the budget to date, my memo outlines the steps council took at the last meeting, the various changes. It left at the end of the day $44,333. As my memo states, we found that basically in two areas. Talking to Kim, the west side retaining wall at the Monora Park Pavilion. It's not urgent that it get done next year. She feels it can hold up for another year, so we can defer that. So that was $21,300. And then talking with Public Works Manager Matt Donor, the guardrail projects kind of fluctuate. We can make the adjustment of $23,000 there. It just means there'll be a small stretch that won't be able to get done. So that totaled $44,300, left the residual of $33. And to balance off the budget, zero remaining, it was just added to the inflation number of the increase, which still remains at 1% overall increase.
Okay. Any comments regarding the final draft from council members? Fred?
No, I'm happy with it, but then it leaves the question, is there anything in this budget within the existing numbers that we could steal $25,000 to complete the washroom at Monora? And then if there's not any room to do that, I guess the question is, what does the rest of council think about adding in $25,000 back into the budget, which would then exceed our 1% inflation rate?
Okay.
Well, regarding the 25,000 roughly addition, at this point, we'd have to have the discussion at the staff level. If council wanted us to find it elsewhere, we would bring it back to the next meeting. Just have a proper discussion with it. We didn't go ahead with that discussion at this point because we wanted to see what council's decision was first. So do you want to proceed with it or not? If council wants to proceed with it, then we're back at the drawing board. And Councilor Nix is correct. Just squeezes it a little tighter.
Okay. John?
Sorry, my internet is acting up. I would favor trying to find that money within the budget. I'm fairly hardline on the issue of 1%. I think that we should not exceed that. I know there's people out there who think that even that is unacceptable. So I'm in favor of finding the money.
Okay. Any other comments, Sharon?
I think we need to find the money. To be perfectly honest, the porta potty that's out there is not being used all the time. people come and ask if they can use the washroom, not knowing that there isn't one. And the numbers of people that are coming to all parks. We just heard what's going on at a provincial park. And I have to say, this park I'm quite familiar with, and we have a lot of people who would benefit from using this. And it puts it on the same level with Cardinal Woods and with Mono Center. I think it would be a really good idea.
Okay, so are you in favor of finding the money?
I think we really have to service the people that are coming there.
Okay. Ralph?
Your Honor, normally I wouldn't be very favorably inclined at this late moment to push in an extra $25,000, but I think that Kim's been quite perceptive in coming up with this solution that is a timely one, and given the time that we're in, I think we need to bend a little bit and go for the additional $25,000. So I'd be in favor of finding that within the budget and definitely keeping it to the 1%.
Okay. So, Les, you've heard.
Okay. If I could throw one idea to catch Mike off guard here, could provide his input. One thought I would bounce with the department heads is maybe further reducing the guardrails. So if we could take it out of there, if Mike's open to that idea, and then we're done. Then we're done.
Yeah, that could be reduced to 100 even less, if that works.
Okay. So council is good with that. I think Fred Simpson's prepared, the deputy clerk's prepared a resolution for you. You just have to add as amended.
Right, okay. So I do have two motions. One is that council approves the 2021 draft budget as amended, dated November 24th, 2020, with the exception of page 27, library services and notes, to allow Deputy Mayor to vote on the motion. Okay.
Thank you, and I appreciate that, and I will be filing a declaration with regard to the entry for the Orangeville Library, as my spouse works there.
Right. Okay, so with that, who would like to move this motion? Councillor Nix, and seconded by Councillor Martin. Any further discussion? Okay, so I'm going to ask if anybody's opposed. Seeing none, that's carried unanimously. And then the second motion is that council approves page 27, library services and notes of the 2021 draft budget dated November 24th, 2020. Could I have a mover? Moved by Martin and seconded by Mantalo. And call for the vote. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that's carried.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. And for the next council meeting, I will bring back the final budget for 2021. So that last column will be completed. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So now we're moving on to our new business, which is we've already done the number 1. So number 2, the plastic bag bylaw amendment, and Mr. Simpson has provided us his memo regarding those adjustments. Fred, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I think the memo pretty much covers it off. I just wanted to reiterate that the bylaw as currently written insisted that only recycled paper bags could be handed out by businesses. And while I'm not proposing making a change to the intent of the bylaw, I've proposed several changes to make it more clear that is the intent of the bylaw.
Okay, any council members have questions regarding those adjustments? Councillor Nix?
No, I just would say that I am in favor of the changes that Fred is proposing. And I apologize if there was any confusion at our last council meeting when my memory didn't work perfectly, and I had originally thought we were only dealing with plastic bags, but Fred Simpson has lectured me, and he's quite right, and I'm in support. I'm in support of what he's proposing.
Okay, Councillor Maichtelo?
Thank you, Fred, for doing this revision. Largely, I think it's where it should be now. Most paper bags are recyclable. Not everybody knows that, and probably 95% of them are, but Fred pointed out to me that there are non-recyclable paper bags, and these are usually lined with plastic, etc. Given that fact, I think that when a person who doesn't know the background of this reads it, there's still just a little bit of tweaking that we could do. I'm referring you to 224, where it says a paper bag means a bag made of paper that is not recyclable. That's going to be kind of like people are going to say, "What do you mean? Most paper bags are recyclable. Why do we have that there?" And I think we should just delete that and go back to it's section 222, where we have 222C says, and checkout bags includes paper bags. It should say includes recyclable paper bags, etc., and that would take care of it. But because I think it's quite confusing when somebody reads that a paper bag is something that's not recyclable, because we all know that most paper bags are recyclable. So my recommendation is to provide further clarity, and I appreciate what you've done, Fred, to provide clarity to this, but that we take out 2.2.4 and in place in 222C that we say and includes recyclable paper bags, and I think that takes care of the issue. John, I see you frowning. Am I confusing there?
Now that I've found the right spot, Ralph, can you just repeat what you said about what changes are you proposing? And I got to quick click back to the bylaw. Right.
Has everybody got the bylaw open? At the page which is number 2, definitions and interpretation. So if you go down that to partway down the page to 2.2.4, it says paper bag means a bag made of paper that's not recyclable. And that I think is confusing, because everybody knows that paper bags are recyclable. It's made of paper and you throw it in the recycle bin. Well, actually, that's not true. About, I don't know, 5% of them are not recyclable. But so we should just take that out, get rid of it. And I think you clarify the fact that there are recyclable paper bags and they can be handed out. So anyway, so you go back to 2.2.2C, and it says there, and includes checkout bags, includes paper bags, plastic bags, but does not include reusable bags or recyclable paper bags. So I think that a checkout bag does include a recyclable paper bag. So we need to change that. John, am I making it clearer now?
Ralph and I had a chat about this, and I tend to agree. I don't think it was our intention to prescribe or bar the use of recyclable paper. And indeed, Sobeys, as an example, is handing out paper bags now. So those are the only options: a paper bag or a plastic bag that is can be used hundreds of times. But I think our original intent was to do away with single-use thin plastic bags. So anything that heads in that direction, I'm in favor of.
Okay, so Fred Simpson, are you clear on those intentions?
I would just like to confirm, just to make sure I've got it clear. So if I understand then, Ralph, where I had proposed in section 2.2.4 to add to the definition of paper bag the word not, you're suggesting don't make that change. Leave the definition the way it the way it currently stands, that a paper bag is a bag that is made of paper, or is a bag that is made of recyclable paper. See, if we take the word out not, now we've got confusion.
No, I'm afraid I was suggesting taking the entire line, but your suggestion is fine too. It just clarifies that the paper bag is a recyclable bag.
But then we added the definition. See, the idea was to make the distinction between a paper bag that is recyclable and a paper bag that is not recyclable. So that's why I proposed adding a definition of recyclable, so that we know that when someone's handing out a paper bag, it must be recyclable. So the only thing being excluded are those paper bags that can't be recycled. That's the only type of paper bag we recognize. There aren't many of them, but we're excluding those. And because our original definition of paper bag means a paper bag that is recyclable, but council was looking for that to be clarified. So, so I added the definition of a recycled paper bag to make it distinct and separate from other paper bags, right? So if a paper bag is a bag that is made of paper and is recyclable, then do we need, it's the same as the definition of a recyclable paper bag. So we don't really need it twice. That's where we were last week.
We don't need it there at all. So I was suggesting that you just deleted 2224 because it's confusing. It's defining a paper bag as something that's not recyclable, and that's not what everybody's understanding is. A paper bag is recyclable.
But the previous definition of paper bag was a bag made of paper that is recyclable. So that's the way the bylaw currently reads without passing this amendment. A paper bag is only defined as a paper bag that is recyclable. So that would be no change. And if that's the definition, you're right. We don't need a definition of recycled paper bag.
Right. So you're in agreement, we just delete 2224, is that my understanding?
Well, I'm suggesting that we don't amend 2.2.4. We leave it the way it currently was, the way it is currently without any change. A paper bag means a bag that is made of paper that is recyclable. That's the way the bylaw currently reads.
Okay,
And it sounds like you're suggesting we leave it at that.
I don't have the bylaw in front of me, the old one, but if that's what it says, that seems to be quite clear.
Okay, so if we do that, we don't need to add, I don't think, a new paragraph that defines a recyclable paper bag.
Right, I agree. You take 2.2.6.
Right.
We don't need it. We don't need it.
Okay, right. So that's the bylaw now. What changes? So you've removed two of the proposed changes, other than changing it to a checkout bag bylaw as opposed to a plastic bag bylaw. The only other change is in 2.2.2C. I appended to the end of the definition that includes paper bags, so a checkout bag, right, includes paper bags and plastic bags, so i.e. they're no longer acceptable, but does not include a reusable bag or a recyclable paper bag. So adding that or recyclable paper bag would really be the only change to the bylaw. We've clarified that it has to be a recyclable paper bag.
But isn't that redundant now that we've changed 2.2.4?
Yes.
I'm
But if we take
getting,
that out, then we've made no changes to the bylaw. The bylaws as it currently stands. We've just renamed it.
I'm getting a headache.
I can't comment because I can't see the old bylaw, but
Andrew, can you pull up the report and put it on screen and go to the red line version for us, please?
Give me just a minute.
You only need to show section 2, Andrew, definitions and interpretation.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Okay, so as you can see on the screen, I have proposed adding, to make it very clear that a business can use a reusable bag or a recyclable paper bag. Previously, that was inferred by the definition of a paper bag. Paper bag had, was a bag that is recyclable. So it wasn't definitively stated. It was inferred by the definitions. So I've tried to make that clear by putting it in writing. A business can use a recyclable, reusable bag or a recyclable paper bag.
so then, I hate to do this sort of Mickey Mousing things, but I just want it to be clear so when somebody reads this, they understand whether you can use a paper bag or not when you go to the checkout. And is that's my point. I guess that 222C says that a checkout bag, you're not supposed to use a checkout bag, but it includes paper bags. And then so probably we should just take out that it includes paper bags. Just say, start it with it. Checkout bag means plastic bags, but does not include reusable bags, so recycled paper bags. Are you okay with that?
I'm not sure I quite followed that, because if you take a look, what we're saying is, first of all, what you can't use, right? And then we're saying, which is, so we can take out paper bag and leave in, and includes plastic bags by removing paper bags, but does not include reusable bags and recycled paper bags.
That's good, Fred. I think that makes it clear.
Okay, so from 2.2.2C, we're going to strike out the words paper bag. And by that, I'm referring to the first appearance of the word paper bags. Otherwise,
Right.
We're leaving that section the same.
Fred, I'm
And
happy with that.
in section 2.2.4, we're going to leave it as it's currently written, which means the word not, which is in red, will not appear in the bylaw. We'll leave the definition of reusable paper bag in the bylaw. Does that work?
Sounds good to me, Fred. Thank you.
And you'll take 2.2.6 out.
Yeah,
The
we can
revised
remove,
2.2.6.
yes, and we'll remove 2.2.6 and keep the numbering as it currently is. So the only change to this bylaw then is we're adding into 2.2.c, we're changing that slightly. We're removing paper bag, but adding recyclable paper bag, and we're changing the name of the bylaw. That's it. Those are the only two changes.
Thumbs up.
You're okay with that then, John?
I'm not suggesting another change, but I want to go on record as having a problem with the exemption for a plastic bag that protects newspapers or other printed material. I've had a number of people comment that those bags have become ubiquitous since the newspapers are no longer being put in our mailboxes. And there's little or no use for them once you've pulled the newspaper out of those bags. And they're not terribly effective in keeping a newspaper dry either. I just leave that on the record because I think we will have people coming back to us on that issue.
I tend to agree with that, except for, unlike you, John, I get them thrown into my driveway every week, whether I canceled or not. It seems that they just ignore. And then, of course, when you've got your snow blowers going through, that makes a mess of their equipment. So I would like to remove them from exemption. I don't know how we'll enforce it, but instead of maybe collecting them and putting them back on their doorstep.
Well, the interesting thing is that while this bylaw will affect very, very small numbers of retailers in the town, the issue of the newspaper bag affects virtually everyone, those who want the papers delivered and those who don't.
Yeah. So is everyone comfortable with removing that one? Yes, Fred?
I'm comfortable with it, but I just want to speculate out loud that if there's going to be any enforcement, and our bylaws are complaint driven, actually, I'm sure we will get a complaint. And then I think the town is going to have quite a time telling our two local newspapers that they have to cease distributing newspapers in our town with plastic wrappings around it. I don't know whether, maybe Mark, do we have the legal muscle to do that?
Well, I was going to say, it's going to create an enforcement issue. It's going to create an educational issue for you too, because you will have to educate. We're going to have to let the Toronto Star know, for instance. I mean, they still do their deliveries overnight, and it comes in a blue bag. I mean, you've changed the entire, I guess, enforcement nature and education nature of the bylaw beyond what was going to be a local educational bylaw to being a bylaw that's going to get thrown back at us to be enforced, especially when it comes to the newspapers and magazines that are thrown on people's lawns.
I mean, I agree with what John said, but I wouldn't be surprised by taking that out of the exemptions that we're heading to a courtroom down the road.
May I make a suggestion? Maybe leave it as it is for the moment, but write to the two local newspapers to suggest to them that at some point, if we don't take out the exemption, possibly the federal government's rules are going to come into force here. Because those bags are absolutely useless for anything other than picking up dog droppings.
Okay, so then if that's the case, if we leave it in, yes, Ralph?
I think that we shouldn't take it out. It really creates a problem. it'd be nice if the newspapers went back to what I think was their previous practice of putting it in the mailbox. But if they don't, if they just throw it on the ground, then you might as well throw it out in days that it's wet. Now, it doesn't always protect the wetness, but it's of some value. I think it's of significant value. And I think the solution, John, is that we all get dogs.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, so we have a motion that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to amend 2020-5 plastic bag bylaw that it be signed by the mayor and the clerk for the town of Malden, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw. Yes, Fred.
Should that resolution be changed to as amended? Because we are making some amendments to the proposed amending bylaw.
Okay, and where would you like me to insert as amended?
Right after the 2020-5 plastic bag bylaw, comma, as amended,
Okay,
or as further amended, either.
well, we'll just leave it as amended because I'm sure we'll be back and amending it further. Anyone like to move the motion? Moved by Nix and seconded by Maitelo. Any further discussion? Okay, anyone opposed? Seeing none, then that passes. Okay, so now on to the number 3, Provincial Bill 229, Protect, Support, and Recover from COVID-19 Act. And we have information provided by the Nottawasaga Conservation Authority and the TCR Conservation Authority. So I understand Councillor Maitelo has provided us with a motion, and it's quite lengthy. So what I'd like to do is ask if Andrew can put that motion up on the screen. And then Ralph, maybe you can speak to the motion.
Would you like me to speak to it now, Your Honor?
Yeah, there's the motion is on the screen now. So if you...
This is an interesting piece of legislation, an interesting amendment to the present Conservation Authorities Act. I won't comment much about where it was placed, but it was really placed in a position on the budget bill that it's an omnibus bill, and I don't know what the government was thinking there, but it's a very important bill because amendment because it has significant has the potential to have a significant effect on the Conservation Authority's ability to act and do the essential jobs they do. In my view, the most important change to it is the effect on the permitting process. As Fred knows better than me, when the applicant is denied or is given conditions and they don't like it, they appeal to the Conservation Board, and they can appeal to the minister at the moment. This opens it up to an appeal to LPAT as well, and I think that appealing to both is in fact a bad idea. Appealing to the minister should be removed because it puts it into the political realm rather than the issue of is there good science to back up the decision that the Conservation Board has made on it. And putting it at LPAT just increases the cost, legal cost to the Conservation Authority, and it defers it. It probably slows down the whole process significantly. Along with the permitting issue is the issue of how do you make sure that people follow your direction. And there had been this is complicated, and I have trouble understanding it. There was a recommendation that had gotten to a certain stage of approval for some changes in the Conservation Act, and this amendment amends that. So if we go back to one previous level of amendment, it was going to make the issuing of orders easier for the Conservation Authority. It was making it easier for them to pursue a person who was not obeying the order, was not obeying their permit. And so that this is going backwards now, and it's removing the ability to issue an order. It's also removing the ability to go on the land to identify something. And when something's going wrong, it happens very quickly. I saw this happen up on the Monora edge of the town line when somebody was cleaning out a pond without any permit. And I saw it one day, Nottawasaga Valley was there the next day, and by then the equipment was all gone and it was done. So the Conservation Authority needs to be nimble, it has to be able to act quickly. There are other things in there which are not good as well. The fiduciary thing is not good. It removes the ability of us to designate a non-council member as a member of the board. And we have done that recently. Recently, we've done that for quite a long time. I think Fred was on the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority board before he was a municipal councillor. We actually have three municipal or three conservation authorities in Mona. We have to appoint people too. So it's an advantage to our council if we have a good person that's a Mona resident is outside the council to be able to appoint them. So I think that should be removed as well. Now, the other surprising thing was that the duties of a member of the board, i.e. myself at the moment for Mona, it really changes our responsibilities to be being responsible for our municipality rather than for the corporation, for the authority. And that's an odd thing, because my understanding of governance is that anybody who's on a board as a representative of their jurisdiction is primarily responsible for the activities of that board, and this tries to remove that, which is dumb, probably not legally supportable. But the other issue is with respect to the core and the non-core programs. This has gone through, as you probably know, but the regulations to define the core programs have not been put out, and so that this is something that needs to be dealt with. I think it's going to come and bite us on the heel. So there's two big things I think within this that are bad. One is the permitting process, and the other is the management of core and non-core programs. So I've sat in on the Grand Valley Conservation Authority's YouTube the special meeting that they held yesterday, and I've been privy to multiple dialogues with our Conservation Authority. There's two possibilities that we do here. One is that we just request that the government gets rid of this period and they throw it out. And that's what I requested, and initially, but with more thought and consideration, I think that they probably will not do that. I think that they may be open to modifying it, and so that's why there's a second bullet there. I can't see it, Fred, if you can scroll down, which requests that they modify, if they do not delete it or repeal it, the whole schedule, that they modify it, and that's I think gives us a chance to maybe influence a bit. So that we've also listed the modifications that we think are most important, beginning at the top. I guess the scrolling could go a little further.
And it's on the second page.
Sorry, Andrew, I didn't realize you were scrolling. So the keep going, please. Right down to the bottom, please, Andrew. This is not our motion. This is not our motion. This is the motion that is appended to one of the conservation authorities, and it's quite old. The motion that I would like to present here, I forwarded to Fred Nixon and council last evening. I didn't send it to you, Andrew.
Did you send it to Fred Simpson?
I did.
This is what I received from you, Ralph, when Councillor Mankolo, when you said that you had a change, and we discussed briefly. This is word for word what I received by email anyways. I'm sorry, that's all I have on record.
I apologize.
I'm ready to take notes on what you want this to read.
I apologize. Can you hear me?
Ralph? Yeah, Ralph, it's the motion, it's the last motion, I think, I'm trying to check the word for word. It's the last motion you sent me yesterday at 4:46 p.m. I think. Fred, I just apologize that I'm incorrect. This is the motion that I would like to be on the table, and includes two resolutions. One that it be repealed, and the second that it, if they do not want to repeal it in its entirety, that we recommend the following amendments be considered, and there's 4 of them there. So you're right, Fred. This is the amendment this is the resolution that I sent you last night.
Okay, so are we clear now what we're doing? So you're fine, Ralph, with this motion that's on the screen?
Yes, that's completely, Your Honor.
Okay. So yes, Councillor Nix.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Ralph for all the hard work he did on this. We communicated quite a bit, I guess, yesterday on this issue. And I too sat in on the Grand Valley Conservation Authority meeting. It was a bit discouraging in a sense that they have some high-powered people on their board, including the former Minister of Natural Resources. But I just would like to put on the record and summarize one thing, because I read the review that the Canadian Environmental Law Association, which is quite a respectable organization, they did a quick review of this Schedule 6 of Bill 229. And if I can just read, it's a lengthy document, but I'm going to just read almost the last sentence. This is from the Canadian Environmental Law Association. The package of amendments as proposed are likely to set back watershed planning and implementation of an ecosystem-based approach by decades. As such, the Canadian Environmental Law Association recommends that Schedule 6 not be enacted in its present form and instead be withdrawn in its entirety from Bill 229. That's how strongly they feel about it. I will, just to go back to the meeting, the Grand Valley Conservation Authority meeting, I found it discouraging because they're not actually hopeful that there will be any changes. For one thing, this Schedule 6 was inserted into a budget bill, which I think has been, if I'm not mistaken, been through second reading. And of course, the government will be anxious to get this bill passed. So it's not hopeful that our motion or anything will have any impact. I'm still in favor of the motion because it puts on the public record how the town of Mono feels about this issue. And I think that's important. But again, thanks, Ralph, for all the work you did on this.
Okay, yes, Ralph?
So, I agree. So what this motion does is it agrees with the CELA that the motion that should be removed in its entirety. However, if the government is not willing to do that, we give them some ideas for improvement. So I think it covers both things quite well. I'm a little more optimistic than Fred, and I'll tell you why. There's been a tremendous outpouring of angst about this proposal. It's been in probably every newspaper. I think some of the Toronto papers, it's been in about 3 times. I wrote to a number of friends and acquaintances with the concern of this, and I sent the same letter to all of council. And I was amazed. I got back, I didn't ask for any replies. I got back over a dozen replies, and half of them said, we knew about this, we've written to them already. I think that there's going to be a lot of pressure on the government to do something, and that's our purpose. So I think that this is a valuable motion. It's more than just paper. It needs to be sent to everybody that's important in government, including Sylvia Jones, and I'm hopeful that it might have some influence. But if it doesn't, it really does set back the conservation authority's ability to do what they want to do.
Okay, so with that in mind, Ralph, are you willing to move your motion?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Councillor Nix to second. And
We're waiting for you. We're waiting for you, Your Worship, to read the motion to put it on the table.
yeah, okay, I'm sure you are. So in the meantime, are you you had an idea in terms of the form of your circulation, Fred? Considering an open letter to be attached to the resolution, so it does bullet points.
Yes, Your Worship. I'll try to do that this afternoon. I'll write an open letter to the government or the ministers. I'll check it with Ralph first before I send it to you, and then I would hope we could get it published in the newspaper or something.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Deputy Mayor.
I was just going to suggest that that the open letter as well as the resolution be circulated to the opposition critics as well. These omnibus bills are dangerous because, time and time again, they're sneaking things through under the cover of darkness. And unfortunately, it's very hard for the opposition at Queen's Park to keep track of some of these things. They can't even, there would be 5 critics involved in one omnibus bill. But I would suggest finding out who the critic is for this area for both the NDP and the Liberals, and making certain they get copies as well.
Okay, good idea. Okay, so I'm going to, unless there's any further discussion, call for the vote. Is anyone opposed to this motion? Seeing none, then that's carried. And thank you very much, Ralph and Fred, for your work on this. And we will carry on. Yes, Fred.
Your Worship, is it appropriate that the minutes reflect that motion was passed unanimously?
Sure. Why not?
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're moving into Schedule A. Ralph, did you have any items on Schedule A?
I've lost my, can you pass on to somebody else for a minute, please?
Sure. Councillor Martin?
I just wanted to add number 11. The property tax. I just wondered what the implications were for us.
Les, do you have any comment?
Yeah.
Basically, when it comes to different property tax ratios and that, it starts at the county level. So the implication is it looks like the province has created a small business ratio on the education side to reduce their taxes, and they're given municipalities. When they say municipalities, it's either a single tier or a county level, the power for next year to do the same. So basically reduce. So right now the tax ratio for commercial business, I believe, is about 1.2 versus residential. So county council will have the ability to reduce that at that level. So what normally happens when ratios before they go to council, county council, the county treasurer convenes all the treasurers in Dufferin. We have a discussion, the pros, the cons, and then a recommendation is made to county council.
Okay, that's good. And number 17, from the Dufferin County CP Rail Trail. The resolution is that they do repairs, do the work that it takes to make it a cycling and walking trail. I support this, but I also understand that there are parts in the middle that are probably not suitable ever for cycling and walking. But when going from Orangeville north, or actually it's probably more west at that point, and coming and in Shelburne, both of those places are quite, you're quite able to cycle or walking. I just wondered if anybody had any thoughts about doing work on that trail.
Well, my understanding was there was already plans in progress and trying to move it along. So, and if I'm not mistaken, there is monies that from the wind turbines project that's on hold. So I'm not 100% sure, but I was under the impression it was Public Works was doing the study and was moving this through. So I haven't heard it. Oh, so we can certainly ask what's going on to this point.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So Fred, Nix, do you have anything? No. So Ralph, did you get yourself back online?
Well, thank you. I just wanted to comment on two. The first is the Dufferin County Forest Operating Plan. You know, this is an impressive thing. We're a relatively small county, Dufferin County, and the management of our forests. I'm very impressed with what's going on, and I think it's a tribute to the people that do it, that we can come up with the programs that are designed to keep the forest as a valuable natural resource. The second thing I'd like to comment on is the assessment center. And I'm sure you all picked up on this, that the assessment center is now indoors. It's as a part of, we're close to the emergency department as part of the hospital. To access it, you need an appointment. And there are, unfortunately, I personally disagree with the criteria for getting a testing, because I don't think it's moving us ahead. We're moving into our second wave and with vigor. But the testing criteria are that you have symptoms, that you have been you've been in contact with somebody who has a COVID or other isolated things such as preoperative, pre-chemotherapy, etc. But so that's available. Apparently there is also some testing available in pharmacies, and I don't have the information about that. Maybe somebody else does here. But we should be doing, in my humble opinion, we should be doing surveillance testing, which means we're looking at large portions of the population and trying to find out where the infected patients are before they've started to spread it, and we're not doing that. Your Honor.
Okay. John, did you have anything on Schedule A?
Just an observation about the county forest. I have a call out to somebody who contacted me with regard to an entrance on Hurontario Street north of the 20th into the county forest that is attracting a lot of parking and in a fairly dangerous spot. And the question was whether or not we could prevail upon the county to close that entrance and rely on other ways of accessing the forest. I'm going to follow up on that. The other item is number 15, the Roma Municipal Broadband Resources and Webinar. I commend the Roma report to anyone who wishes to read it, and I've signed up for the webinar, which is taking place on December 1st.
Okay. So if there's nothing further, we have a motion that we accept Schedule A to this agenda. Could I have a mover? Moved by Martin and seconded by Magdalo. Anyone opposed? That carries. Okay, so now reports of council and staff. So I guess we can start with Les.
Okay, thank you. Normally, when I bring back the final budget for council, the final copy, I would bring the tax rate bylaw. But again, because of COVID, I will not have the assessment roll in time for that meeting. So looks like we'll be passing the rate bylaw in 2021. Plus, with Councillor Martin bringing up the number 12 regarding the tax ratio, that can be changed. Maybe it might be just as well to wait to see what happens at the county level if county council wants to do something for small business. Other than that, my report's done.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Any questions of Les? Seeing none, Kim Heaton.
Just a couple of things. One, Deputy Mayor Krillman, your comment just a second ago about the trail going into the county forest off of Hurontario Street. Just letting you know that we do get a lot of challenges up there with four-wheelers going in off of that entrance. So yeah, anything that you can do to close that entrance, it certainly would assist us with the challenges that we have up there. Other than that, update regarding the eggnog jog that I brought to council last week. And since I last spoke with council, the health unit, this went up into the upper echelons of the health unit, even though I was informed prior to speaking with council that this was not a type of event that they would get involved in. It turns out that they did take some true interest in it. And they informed me that they would not be in favor of the event because of travel from, or non-essential travel from a high transmission area to a low transmission area, which is what would be happening with regards to a number of the participants in the run. So between emails back and forth between myself and Mr. Shepley and Kelly Briscoe, who is the public health officer that I've been dealing with, Mr. Shepley at this point has decided not to hold the run at Monora this weekend. And that's about it. Other just feeling, getting ready for the winter months and snow and everything else it brings to the recreation department. So,
okay. Any questions of Kim? Seeing none, thanks, Kim. David Troutman.
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. Really just briefly follow-up matters from the November 17th council session respecting the bylaws, the amendments, of course, for the microbrew, the notice of decision, of course, as well as the accessory structures. And what I will do is craft a letter, of course, back to the NEC on the Taoism matter. And we do maybe have some committee of adjustment applications coming, although I don't know. We'll see if they make a December meeting. I'm guessing probably not at this point. It may be first month in January 2021. That's about it at this point for me. Thanks.
Okay. Any questions of David? Seeing none, thanks, David. Michael?
Hi, thanks, Your Worship. Deputy Mayor Creelman, with respect to the email on the Huron-Terry issue, looks like they got us all involved. Laura and I have been dealing with that, and if it's okay with council, I have a draft letter right now to send to the county forester to discuss closing that entrance and utilizing a potential different entrance. So unless we both want to talk to them, it's up to you, Mayor and Deputy Mayor, on that issue.
Well, we can go through Carolyn, and same time we can also go through Scott. So either way, we'll try and get something accomplished. We don't need any more parking issues.
Yeah. I think it'd be an excellent idea to approach the county on this, and Kim's comment about the four-wheelers is further proof that that is an entrance that we can do without.
Okay. Anything else, Mike?
Just catching up on reports that I need for council. I have a lot of food for thought with respect to Monocliff's report that I delayed, and we'll have that the next council meeting, and hopefully some other reports that I owe council.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right. And Mr. Simpson, any questions of mine? Seeing none then, Mr. Simpson.
Just one item, Your Worship. I want to let council know that on Wednesday, tomorrow, the Ready Alert system will be conducting a nationwide test on all channels, media, TV, and your cell phone. In Ontario, you can expect that at 12:55 p.m. tomorrow afternoon.
Well, that's good to know.
That's all I have.
Okay. Any questions of Fred? Seeing none, Mr. Early.
Just a quick update on a couple of matters. The drilling by Watermark for the backup well, they're looking at completing tomorrow, or beginning tomorrow in the Klondike pit, and then moving over to the park. Hopefully it'll be done this week, in and out. I did have an opportunity to visit all of the TRCA properties with our member, Mr. Sinclair, and a couple of reps from TRCA. They wanted to come up and I guess promote what they do and what we're not aware of. So there were two properties in the municipality that I wasn't aware they owned. So they are actively being, one has a trail on it. It's a linkage trail to the Bruce Trail, and the other one is actually, they're hoping to leave passive and develop a meadow feature on it. And that's down on Highway 9. It used to be part of the gravel pits in the 6th line area. Just a reminder, the joint council meeting tomorrow night on the service delivery study, it's at 7 with the county. And John has already covered off the broadband initiative that Roma's doing. So they are, the documents they have are quite good. So that's all I have.
Yes, Fred.
Yeah, on the joint council meeting, I've quickly skimmed the consultant's report. I must admit I didn't finish it, and I didn't get down to the section that says next steps. But so I will attend the meeting tomorrow. Is the main purpose of the meeting just so that we can receive information? I mean, the joint council, we don't make decisions at that level, do we?
The purpose of the meeting is to present the documents to you before they are finalized and put forward. So it was chosen to do it with all of the councils together.
Okay, then my further question is, so let's say the report is finally received by the county.
Correct.
What are the actual mechanics as say one of the suggestions is accepted? Does the county and each municipality have to vote on that, or how does it work? How do we actually change something?
They're only making recommendations. to you at this point. I mean, some of them are going to be controversial. Some of them may or may not be accepted when they get down to the individual municipalities and boards that they're requesting. They're just, I think they're setting out a roadmap, and they're going to be making further recommendations on how things may be achieved based on what information they get back from the joint council meeting tomorrow night.
But to take a concrete example, they've recommended we look at the governance structure of fire boards. So I'm still unclear as a councillor in the town of Mono. I mean, at the Shelburne District Fire Board, we can't even get 5 municipalities to agree on a new agreement. It would be difficult to think how we would. I don't know how it would work. It's a nice recommendation, Mr. Consultant. Thank you. Now I'm on to other business. I'm being a bit cynical, but I don't know how would we do that.
Well, I think the mechanics is something they need to be putting forward. I think those are questions you need to be directing to the consultants as to how is that going to be flushed out in their final recommendations in the report.
Any other questions of Mark? Seeing none, thank you, Mark. And so now, Ralph, did you have anything you wanted to report?
Your Honor, just to go back for a minute and ask a question, where are we on the proposal to put no parking on the third line by the park entrance? Where is that proposal?
So what we directed staff with the delegation earlier is to work together to come up with some steps and immediacy in terms of trying to control what's going on.
I thought that as a part of John's recommendations earlier, that we had advanced along the line of the putting up no parking, making no parking in tollway zone prior to this meeting. Mark, I see Mark's hand up. Thank you.
Right, and understanding that it was suggested that Public Works take a look at the logistics of having one side of the road no parking, depending on configuration of the roadbed. So, Mark, did you want to say anything further?
Yeah, just Mike had sent an email around to all of council, I believe earlier last week, just requesting, I guess the resolution asked for a report to come back to this meeting on parking on third line. Mike had suggested that it would be more appropriate to bring that report back after hearing from the parks people at today's meeting. And I think Mike, as part of his report, was saying he's aware that he owes council that report and he'll be bringing it back at the next meeting.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Hi.
I think Mike had a comment.
Oh, sorry, Mike.
Yeah, this is actually a good conversation. If that was, sorry, having missed the last couple of council meetings, was it the intention of council that that you didn't want parking on third line, or? No,
we were asking for logistics of if we were going to put up no parking. We know that it's just going to push it either north or south on the third line, but consideration of whether or not one side of the road only. But again, now that we've had our preliminary discussions with the management of the park, I think it would be part of the discussions our staff would have with them to see what further can be done.
Right, because I'm just getting a small sense that council doesn't want parking along there, because if you're only allowing one side, we're not removing the residential impact. Right.
So those sort of things can be addressed in any report coming back forward as to what, because we know what's going to happen if we put no parking from one end to the other. just the same way as what Fred Nix has noted on Hockley Road. Even though there's a zone on a regular basis, it does a fairly good job, but on high traffic times, it really just pushes the parking to another direction. So I hope that clarifies. We'll look forward to your report, and also once there is a meeting convened, and just continued update.
I think that sounds like it's going in the right direction. Just to remind us all that once we have snowdrifts along there and parking as well, the problem is going to be magnified, and so we need to move on this fairly quickly. I see John. Yeah.
Okay, so John?
I know I joined the meeting late, but I didn't hear anything that dissuades me from the notion of having some form of parking prohibition in proximity to the parking lot entrance. The motion was written in such a way as to give Public Works the ability of making recommendations as to whether it would be one side or the other, and I think this was an amendment that I moved when I did the notice of motion, or frankly both sides, because there's a compelling argument that if you're going to do it at all, it should be on both sides, because you just create more of a problem if you don't approach it that way. The second part of the motion has to do with enforcement and the idea of training and designating provincial offense officers to hand out tickets. I don't think that the county enforces its no parking down on Hockley Road. I think those signs are just for show, frankly. I could be wrong in that regard, but again, there's no point in doing this if we aren't prepared to enforce it.
Okay. Fred?
John, the OPP enforces the no parking zones on Hockley Road. I know that from personal experience, because I do the checkpoint for the annual end-to-end hike, and I have to get an occupancy permit from the county to park my car where the Bruce Trail crosses. And twice the OPP have stopped to talk to me, very, very friendly, and I show them the permit.
The number of Part 2 certificates, in other words, parking infraction certificates that the town of Mono gets on an annual basis can be basically the fingers of 2 or 3 hands. There are not many Part 2 tickets handed out in the town of Mono by the OPP. They certainly are authorized to enforce it, but we're not seeing a lot of evidence of that activity.
That's because on the Hockley Road, I rarely, if ever, see a car disobeying the no parking signs. That's why they're not handing out tickets. But they obviously do enforce, because twice they stopped to talk to me.
That may well be the case, but again, I think that third line is a different issue, and we need to know that both the OPP and provincial offense officers are enforcing our bylaw.
Great. Okay. Ralph, did you have anything else that you?
That's all, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. So Sharon, did you have anything you want to report?
No. Good.
Fred, do you have anything? No? Okay. John, did you have something?
2 things very quickly. I don't know if I have reported that the equipment is now installed on the water tower. I think I've circulated a few photographs. I've had calls from early adopters who rave about the speed and the quality of the connection to the Mono wireless installation, and it went off without a hitch, and I think people are generally very happy. The other thing, and I don't know if I circulated this little video, but it was of a grader in Alaska, and it was doing snow removal, and it had a hydraulic device that drops down when the grader approaches a driveway and blocks the snow from being tossed onto the driveway. A really nifty device, and I know we're too far along in the planning cycle and budget cycle to consider this as a piece of equipment to try out this year, but I would highly recommend, and I'll send that video out again if I haven't already. Have a look at it. It's spectacular, as I say, I think it's done as it's an add-on to the grader or the plow. And Mike, I don't know if you've seen this or are familiar with it.
This contraption, it's been around for quite a few years. Definitely has its hydraulic failures in colder weather, but it is a level of service that's available. Comes with a cost times 11 machines, and it would definitely be more appropriate for rural because of the space between the driveways, and haven't fully thought out the impacts in the urban core with the driveways being so close. But it's definitely out there. It's a potential. I don't know the longevity of them and how robust they are, but they do. But the level of service is there. If it's something that council wants to entertain, we are, as John mentioned, Deputy Mayor mentioned, we are through the we are quite a ways into the 2021 budget. So it would be an addition in the next couple weeks that we'd have to add, or it would be a 2022 issue for the cost. So it is there. It would slow down service, but it is available should council wish to entertain it.
Mike, is it an add-on to existing equipment, or does one have to have it built into a new machine?
I've never seen an existing plow structure that comes with it, so my guess would be it's an add-on. If it's the same one that I've seen, Deputy Mayor, it's just an arm panel that comes down and blocks the chute for a second, and then it's shifted up again. So it is a mechanical add-on to the probably semi-patented, but it is an option.
Yeah, I would suggest that maybe we investigate it, and if it looks good and promising, maybe try it out for one or two vehicles, maybe just one vehicle to see how it works. But I think it's really impressive, and I'll send the video around so that people can see how it functions.
If council's in agreement, I can look at the cost and try and work the number out of another budget line if council's interested.
Ralph?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Okay. So if you are able to, and you have the time, Mike, if you can give us some rough figures, that would be great.
As long as the numbers are manageable, less than I could probably work through that.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so anything further, John?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right then, so are there any notices of motion? Seeing none, and there's no in camera today. Is there any other business for the benefit of the town? Seeing none, then we will close off. That we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Council of the Town of Malden, session VC17-2020, held on the 24th of November 2020, that it be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Moved by Martin and seconded by Nix. Any discussion? Is there anyone opposed? That carries. And that we adjourn this meeting at 11:15 a.m. And could I have a mover? Moved by Mantlo and seconded by Creelman. Anyone opposed? Well, that's carried. Thank you very much, everyone. And I guess we'll see you virtually tomorrow night.